I don't know. Lost the call.
Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, why you called me again?
We lost you.
Hang on.
Like,
That's weird. Okay, I'm not sure what happened there. Okay, so I'm just trying to find a place here in the car.
Try the front seat.
On Chaf Testament Aleph, the question, where we leave off? We just spoke about, 1 second. Yeah, right. So we thought, right, so about 10 lines from the bottom, right? So Rabbi said, don't make the mistake, right? Rav Yosef thought to say, let's just read that one more time. I'm not sure how it came out right before the end of the show yesterday. So let's just read that one more time. Sav Rav Yosef Lemeimar, about 10, 12 lines up from the bottom. Sav Rav Yosef Lemeimar, Ad Ika Suda Mehai, Suda Mehai. All these items that we had mentioned, the thought was that you need at least a Suda's worth from each one in order to qualify as a combination. And Amalei Rabba, no, I feel we said, no, even if they represent only a half, a third, or a quarter of the meal, you're still eligible to be combined. You don't need a minimum amount to get going, as long as they are, they combine with everything else to make the amount of 2 sudas, then you're good to go. Okay, Segufa, that's where we're up to Gufa. Okay, so we're all together here. So Amarav, Ma'arvin Bishtei Revios Shal Yain. So remember that one of the key points of the yesterday's Amid was the fact that Rav had said you make an Eruv. When you make an Eruv with wine, you need 2 reviuses of wine. So now the Gemara is going to question that seems to be a very big amount. 2 reviuses is, 8 ounces or so. Do you really need that much wine to qualify for your Eruv? Is that really the share of Mazon of Shtei Sudos? So let's see here. So, me being a Kuli High, is that really true? Do you need that much? Matanya, learn the Bryce. Shim Ben Oz Oimer, Yayin, Lecha Bo Chomet. When you talk about wine, Rishon also says enough wine in order to dip something in. The amount of wine that you would dip your bread and to eat the bread with your wine as a dip. And the vinegar is enough to also to dip in with whatever vegetables or meat that you're eating. Zaysimu psolim and olives and onions, the amount that you would have to have for 2 sudos. So I don't really see, says the Gemara, based on what we're saying over here, that all you need is to have 2 sudas worth of food. Why would you need so much? To which the Gemara says, no, there's a difference. He says, that when you're talking about using it as a dip, we're talking about cooked wine. When it's cooked wine, it's smaller amount. That's the kind of wine that's normally used as a dip, and that's why less is sufficient. It's clearly you're not going to need 8 ounces of wine to dip your food into, your bread into. But when it comes to non-mavushal wine, which is the undiluted wine, that's a whole different story. So let's see any Rashi's here. Yayin Kedei Lechobo, the 4th wide line of Rashi. Yayin Kedei Lechobo, Lishros Bo, Pas Mozon Bei Sudas. If you have bread, 2 sudas worth of bread, then the amount of wine you would use as a dip for that bread is the amount of wine you need for an Eruv. But that does not seem to be anything near 2 reviuses. That's a lot less. And chometz, today letabo basar mozon beisudos. You have meat, enough meat to for 2 meals. Again, you're going to want to have that meat with something else, so you need to have a dip. That dip that would serve 2 sudas worth of meat that you would be eating as the main course. That's what you need for the Eruv. And also when it comes to the olives and the onions, they lecho behen lalafis ben etapans the beisuda. Same idea. Okay, you have these as sort of as a side dish, the onions or the olives. You have them as a side dish to the bread. That side dish, how much you would have for 2 meals, is all you need. So clearly, it doesn't seem like you need that much. Why does Rav say you need two reviuses? When you talk about eating bread with the wine, is b'chamra mavushal. Rashi says, kamar. That's what they're talking about. The choshev of Facebook, because that's good when it's cooked. It's good to use it as a dip. Of a chamra ba'alma, but typical wine, be'inon liyos shtia beisudos. You need the drinking ability of 2 sudos. V'hainu beis revios. Then you need 2 reviuses of wine, which is about 8 ounces. And you're not using it as a dip. You don't use non-cooked wine as a dip. But when you're using it as a dip, it's a different story. So it really depends what the kind of wine that you have. Okay, let's go weiter. Amamar. Okay, we set up above. So we talk about vinegar. It's enough to dip. We said meat for 2 meals. Rashi said it was meat. So it's enough. What kind of meal are you having here? You're having a meal of vegetables. Okay, that's what we're referring to. The amount of vinegar you would use to have, if you have a major salad, you're on a major diet, so you're having a vegetable meal. That vegetable meal would require an X amount of vinegar. Another pshat, another version of what transpired is Amrav Gidol Marav Yerakanecho B'shtei Sudos. It's not referring to a meal of vegetables, or rather referring to the dip of the vegetables yet you would have during a meal. And that would require obviously less, because if you're having the vegetables as part of the meal, you're also having bread, and that would require less vegetables to make it a full meal, and then you'd be okay with less. Okay, Rashi. Mozom Bey Sudas Yerek, 4 lines from the bottom. Shekola Sudas from the Yerek. The entire Suda is from the vegetable. On the other hand, Yerek Hanechol Bey Sudos, that's Papas. The second version doesn't require as much. Okay, so really, I mean, it doesn't. So Shaila is there enough? I mean, is there enough gamina? How much vinegar you need? I guess. No, there's the question. How much vinegar you need to make an Eruv? So according to the first version, you need enough vinegar to dip the amount that you'd have for the amount that you would need for 2 meals of vegetables. So I guess he's saying you need more because I can't assume you're going to have bread in that basket. I'm wondering, is there a practical difference? If the question is what kind of meal you're going to have, obviously, so depending on the meal, that's how much dip you're going to need, I guess. But he's saying more as more of a generic thing. If it depends on the actual thing you're having, then there's no real nafkamina, because depending on what you have, that's how much dip you need. But I think it's going further than that. It's saying that in terms of estimating what you would need for Shabbos, how much vinegar do you have to calculate? According to the first version, you have to calculate more vinegar and have more vinegar in your Eruv basket. According to the second version, you would need less vinegar because you have a right to calculate the bread.
Right, they're basing it on the portion of vegetables that you're going to eat.
Yeah, but that's what I'm wondering. If that's what it is, then there's no real nafkamina, depending on what you have. But I'm wondering, it sounds like maybe there is a nafkamina as far as I want to make an Eruv. So I only have certain types of foods around to make my Eruv. So if I want to use vinegar as my Eruv, how much vinegar do I have to justify it as an Eruv? In other words, right? Because I don't think it means that we... Go ahead.
But it seems to be saying that the amount of vinegar you would need, if vegetables are your main course, you would need more. If they're a side dish, you would need less.
Right. So is the halacha that this is the vinegar you need when you have vegetables but then it depends. So let's look at your basket. I don't, you're looking at it practically, like I was thinking in the Havamina that it's saying if your meal is this, then that's how much vinegar. If your basket has that, then that's how much vinegar. I don't think so. I think it's sort of saying if you want to have vinegar as your Eruv, then that's how much vinegar you need to qualify as an Eruv. Not counting what else. I don't think you need that much else in the basket. Uh-huh. That's what I'm wondering. In other words, you know what I'm saying? In other words, is the pshat that, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's not so clear. Because we did say you don't have to have bread, right? So if you just, let's say, you don't have a lot of stuff, so all you have is vinegar. How much vinegar do you have to put into your basket to make an Eruv? Or is a pshat? No, you can never have just vinegar as an Eruv. I'm not sure. But my gut feeling is that that's enough just to make an Eruv. That's what I don't know. Okay. Right, because when we said revius of wine, it sounds like you're making your Eruv just from the wine. That's what you'd have for 2 sudas. I don't think the machmer, you actually have to have 2 full meals in there. Is that, we don't have any other side dishes because we're using bread, so you're using matzah, so it's enough. I don't know, there's something to look into, but it seems to me that it's just, we're makel by Eruv that if you have certain food that are enough for 2 meals, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Okay. Let's see here. Amamar. So let's go back to another thing that we had said earlier. So if you're using olives and onions, you need the amount that you would need to have them with 2 meals of bread. How much onions and how much olives you would have? Same type of question. Does it mean that, so when you actually make the Eruv, do you have to have the bread in there or not? So first the Gemara, Psalmi Ma'arvin, you really allowed to make an Eruv with onions. But Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Amar Shimon Elazar, Pamachas Shavas Rabbi Meir Badriska. Okay, there was a certain Shabbos that Rav Meir spent in Adriska. A certain person came in front of him and said to Rav Meir, Rebbe, Eraftani b'psalim l'tivit. I made an Eruv with onions to be able to get to the city called Tivit, which was clearly out of the Eruv otherwise, so he needed an Eruv in order to allow him to walk to that certain place. I guess the question is my Eruv with onions acceptable to be able to continue walking to Tivin? To which Shiva Rav Meir ba'arba amashalai. Rav Meir kept him right there in his arba amos, so he had already gone beyond the 2,000 amos from his original place, but he was relying on the Eruv. But Rav Meir was basically telling him your Eruv is bupkis because you can't make an Eruv with onions. So what's going on? How could the Brisa say an Eruv with onions works when it seems here it doesn't work? First says lo kasha. Are you making the Eruv with onions, okay, of the leaves of the onions, which is a problem, or are you making with the emos, the actual, round thing itself, the bulb itself, and that would be okay. The Tanya, as learned the Brisa, the person ate an onion, and he gets up in the morning, and he died, okay, I guess he didn't stay up long, okay, and then he died that morning. We don't say, what in the world did this guy die from? We don't represent shock and manifest shock at his death. Why? Because he died from the onion. And Shmuel says we don't say this only when this guy who unfortunately passed away that morning only had all the leaves of the onion. But if he had the actual onion itself, then there would not be a problem. And even with the leaves, we don't say that it's deadly and it's poisonous. As we turn the page, that if the leaves did not grow the size of a zirsa, of a zeres, which is a span of your pinky to your thumb, okay, when your hands are spread out, that's a measure we have an halacha. So if they sprouted forth and they grew a zeres worth these leaves, then you wouldn't say it either. Okay, it's only when it did not grow that amount. I will if zirsa, but if it grew a zeres' worth less lumba, then there is no concern. Then they're not poisonous. But you clearly see there's a distinction between poisonous onions of the leaves versus the obviously regular onions, which are all fine. Okay, or even the law, if the leaves grew a lot, and they'd also be fine. Let's take a look at the Rashi. Let's finish up Rashi's on Amman Aleph. Let's see here. Badriska, 3 lines from the bottom. Badriska ubadam echolafana. The Rav Meir stayed in Badriska. B'Shabbos michutz chum aydei erev. Okay, he was chutz chum on Shabbos, and then this guy, he met up with this guy who got there, I guess, through an erev. She'ir v'makom l'tivin. Okay, that was the Adriska was in the place between the his erev and Tivin. Well, the Adriska bal payim amma shebein Eruvin l'Tivin. Right. So the Adriska was a place, a small little town that was within the 2,000 amas between his erev and Tivin. So he already went beyond the normal amount. He's relying now on his erev to go further. But unfortunately, Rebbe had to give him the bad news. Rav Meir said, sorry, bud, but this is where you're staying for the rest of Shabbos. Okay, he basically kept him in the exact same place he asked Shiloh when he asked the question. So Rav Meir, because of a love erev who, because he holds it is not a valid erev to make an erev on an onion. Okay, and therefore it came out retroactively, even though when he left, he thought he was okay. But now retroactively, you went beyond your 2,000 amas because your erev is not a valid erev. With Tanakama Pegrisha Otzihu, Ainli Eladal Amis, that if this is where you are and you found out that your erev wasn't a good erev, then you're stuck to where you are. You've got Dalal Amis, and enjoy your nice little cozy quarters because you're not moving anywhere. All in, Loi Chashivi, they're not in any way considered respectable food. Royim Lechel, they're bad to eat. They're just not flat out not good for you. So this is the case where you cannot make an erev, but the regular onions are fine, and there you could make the erev. Okay. Let's see, top of the page. Yeah, Rashi, top of the page. The loy ochal zursa, the loy ochal zursa, she'ein godloi zeres. They did not grow a zeres' worth. Yeshon eres bebotzel. There's some kind of poisonous element in the botzel, the onion, the leaves of the onion that make it hazardous to your health. Okay. Fine, let's continue. Amr of Papa, back to the Gemara. Amr of Papa, this is only true if you don't drink beer together with the onions of the olive, the leaves of the onions, rather. The leaves of the onions. So if you don't have beer with it, then it's poisonous. But if you drank beer with the leaves of the onion, okay, so you took a little, I don't know, I guess, a Michelob is not the right beer because I think they made the beer from dates, but whatever it is, some kind of beer, less than, but then it's not a problem. The beer somehow washes the poisonous effects away. Okay, look at Rashi. Any Rashi? No Rashi. Okay, fair enough. So bottom line is you would be allowed to have onion leaves and beer, but that would not be hazardous to health, and doesn't sound like that would make it into a good Erev. It still wouldn't be good, but it wouldn't kill you. Okay, turn up on it. We learned in a Bryce as follows. Okay, you're there, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, good. a person's not allowed to eat an onion because of the poisonous effect, this venomous kind of thing that's in there. There's a story about Rabbi Chanina who ate a half a butz of a chatzi nachash boy, together with half of the poisonous junk that's in the onion. And he got sick and he was leaning towards death and he was in a bad state, critical condition. And his friends prayed for him, and he lived. Because the times required his living. And so is that why they prayed for him, or is that why he got healed? Okay, I think they learned typical pshat, that's why they prayed for him. You could also read it that he lived because he was needed by the community, but I don't think that's how they learned. See any Rashi's here? No Rashi's here. Okay, I think the Achredim seem to say that that's why they prayed for him. Otherwise, they would not have prayed for him because he brought it upon himself. But you can also read it that there is such a concept that when you are needed by the community, you have more rachamim. But that does not seem to be the way the other Achronim learned. Okay, they seem to learn that's why the Chacham stood up and poured out their hearts to save his life. Okay. Why?
Because they needed him, you're saying?
In other words, it seems that the Achronim learned that since the community needed him, that he was very relevant, for the community, and that's why they prayed for him, as opposed to that's why he was answered. Uh-huh. That's how I would have read the Gemara. The reason why they were answered is because, Hashot Tzrichalo, that he was needed by the time. But
but otherwise they wouldn't necessarily have prayed for him if he wasn't.
Right. That's right. That's what it seems from the Achronim. Correct. That's right. But the way I'm reading it, they would have prayed for everybody. They wouldn't have prayed just for him. But the point is that the reason why he was answered, because he had a special schus. Basically, with the normal conditions, maybe they would not have been answered, but they were answered because maybe that's the reason why that pshat's not so good, is because, what do you mean? He was answered. Maybe they feel was so good enough to save anybody.
Right.
Why would how would they know that it was only answered because he was needed? Maybe the powers of tefillah are so great that anybody would have been answered. So, okay, I guess that's what motivated them to learn the other way. Okay, let's go right there. To that. Amr B'Zeir Amar Shmuel. So B'Zeir says, name is Shmuel. Sheichor Ma'arvim Boi. Okay, Sheichor is a valid Erev. Beer is a valid Erev. Uposus a mikvah. And beer also has the ability to passel a mikvah b'shoshes lugin. We know that 3 lugim is sort of a magic number of how much you need to make a mikvah not valid. So if even though maybe you can nullify the drawn water, the invalid water, when you put it into a mikvah, but if that's part of your 40 lugim, if you have your 40 saw rather, if you need 40 saw to a mikvah. If you start your mikvah with 40 saw, you put in 3 lugim of mayim shuvim, that is going to invalidate the mikvah. And beer is no different than mayim shuvim. It's at the same status. So one more time. Sheichor ma'arvin boy. You can use sheichor as an erev. Okay, it poses a mikvah b'shoshim. And so it's 2 halachas, 2 seemingly disparate halachas. It's valid for an erev, and it also passes a mikvah. The maskavor of kana pshita. I mean, what kind of chiddush is it that beer will pass a mikvah? Would you think that you can use beer as a valid liquid for a mikvah? Well, how's that different than dyed water? The Tan, Rabbi Yossi Aimer, made seva places a mikvah. B'shoshes lugin. If you have 3 lugim of dyed water, then that will invalidate the mikvah. What exactly is the difference between dyed water and beer? To which Amrei, the Gemara answers, they said, Hasa Maya, the Tziva Mikre, Hacha Shechra Ikre. I guess there's a Havim to think that water, when it's Mayim Shuvim, so it's got to still be called water. To be qualified as Mayim Shuvim, it has to have the name water, and this doesn't have the name water. So when it's dyed water, it's still water. It's dyed water, but it's water. Now it's therefore it can disqualify the mikveh. But once it maybe has the din of sheikher, it takes on a new name, and as a new name, maybe it doesn't have the same halachis of the three lugim magic number. The chiddush is no, it doesn't change. It's still the same thing. Let's take a look at Rashi. Okay, Nochosh, but that's from the Gemara by the onions. Eres Sraf Habotzel. It's some kind of poisonous sap in the onion that I guess that goes into the leaves, as we mentioned. So he ate half an onion with the leaves, and it was problematic. He almost died. Okay. Now we're into beer. Uposos a mikvah kishar mayim shuvim. Like all other mayim shuvim, passes the mikvah, and that's it. You gotta get new water. You gotta drain that water and get new one. So Fred the Gemara Masker of Kana Ma Bein Zelameteva Pshita the postal. What's the difference between that and dyed water, which would obviously make it disqualified? So the answer is Shichra Mikre. Okay, it's called beer. It's not called water. The Sakedaitach Ein Olav Shemayim. There's a different status for water than there is for apparently some other drinks. And maybe once you lose that status, you don't have the same halach. I guess, I don't know. In other words, with milk, remember milk, maybe it's, milk wouldn't have the status of mayim. It's chalav, and therefore maybe they had different halachas. Maybe it would be able to become bottled, even though it was 3 lugim. I'm not sure, but it does seem that it has to be here. That it has to be a status of water and not a status of something else. Right, that's what Tosafos seems to say. That right, the second Tosafos on the page. Afilachi posel hamikvah. The Omar vod Omar per kama the makos the yayin mozuk ein a posel hamikvah fil sheishbo gimel lugim mayim shuvim. Right, so wine also has water in it, even though it has 3 lugim of mayim shuvim. It would not pass mishum the chamra meziga mikre. Shani Sheikh is the Chol Ikra Ein El Mayim. Right? So it does seem that Tosafos seems to confirm that point, that even though other things might have water in them, I guess, it seems like Chol for sure would not be a problem. Milk is totally milk. I mean, it's liquidy, but I guess we don't look at it as being connected to water. But with wine, you put water into the wine, you diluted the wine, but still, even though you dilute it, it still has a special status of wine. But sheikhar essentially is seen as water, because its whole essence is essentially water, and therefore it has a different halacha. So it has a din of mayim shuvim, and 3 lugim will pass. Okay. So a little bit of mikvos there today. Let's proceed. Back to the Gemara. Ubekamam arvin. Okay, so we're still on beer. How much beer do you have to have for your eruv? Right? Because it says that you can make a beer could be in your eruv, in your basket. How much beer needs to be there to make an eruv with beer? Rav of Yosef, Kamed of Yosef, Lamemar, Betrin Rivoy Shichra. So Yosef made a calculation that 2 reviuses of beer will be enough to qualify. Okay, trade Lugin. Trade Revia Shikra, trade Lugin, the Lug Rova Kap. Okay, so 2 lugin, Rashi says, right? So when you talk about a revius here, we're not talking about a revius of a lug, which is about 4 ounces, which is what we normally call a revius, but these are 2 quarters of a kop, which are trade lugin. This is a hefty amount. Okay, this is right. So if a lug is, let's say, 16 ounces, because revius a lug, this would be more like close to this would be 32 ounces, or this would be like a half a gallon. No, 32 ounces is about a quart. A quart, right? Yeah. So trei revi and shichra, trei lugin, the lug revi hakav. So a lug is a quarter of a kav. That's why it's called revius. So this is. So he's going to now explain to us how did he come to this conclusion that you would need two lugin in order to justify your beer being in the as an Eruv. If you want to use beer for an Eruv, you would need that amount. So how did I figure that? So he's going to go through a calculation. So back to the Gemara. So one more time, we'll become a Eruvin. Why? Kidatan, as it says in the Mishnah. Now we're moving into the world of Hotzah. You carried wine on Shabbos. How much wine do you have to carry to be considered carrying? Because we learned when we learned Shabbos, we learned that obviously everything you're carrying, you have to have a shit at the minimum amount of chashiva. So that has to be something that's significant. So what's considered significant when it comes to wine to be enough to be considered Mechal Shabbos for carrying that amount of wine? So the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, the wine you need to carry is enough that you would mix it with water to make a cup of wine. The amount of wine you would need to mix a choshev cup. My koshev, what's a nice cup? What's called a choshev a cup of wine? Koshev bracha. It's a kais of bracha. It's a cup of wine that you make a bracha on, kiddush, or break up by a bris, or whatever, a koshev bracha. Okay, the kais of the bracha needs to be a quarter of a lug. Okay, today, a quarter of a revius, I should say, not a quarter of a lug, a quarter of a revius, in order that it should end up to be a quarter of a lug. Okay, so one more time, kais of bracha rova revius, a quarter of a revius, kadesh shimzigenu v'yamana revius, in order that when you dilute it, it should stand up to revius, equal 4 ounces. Right, so basically, when you want a choshev cup is 4 ounces, a revius, roughly 4 ounces. So so the amount of wine you need to dilute is a quarter of that, which would be 1 ounce, to be connected to 3 ounces of water to give you the kaishal bracha of revius. Ukida Rava, and this follows Rava's opinion. Dama Rava kol chamra delo dari al chat plasmaya. Any wine that does not conform with the formula of 1 to 3, the 3 to 1 ratio of wine to water is not called lav chamru, not called wine. Okay, so the amount of wine you need in this case would be an ounce in order to dilute it with 3 other ounces, and you'd have 4 ounces. Ukatani seifa, and the Mishnah continues, v'shar kol mashkin b'revius. Right, and every other drink which doesn't get diluted, okay, would be a full revius. Okay, v'chol hashofchin b'revius. Okay, and all types of water that gets thrown out, you get dirty water and you want to carry it, you still could use dirty water for something. So what are you going to use? How much dirty water do you have to carry to carry it out? Is shofkin a revius is also looks like a revius, a fourth of a kav. Okay, we'll see. We'll see Rashi. So what do we have here? We have 3 different. We have a wine. We have all types of liquids, and then we have the the bad water that gets basically thrown out, but you can still use it for other stuff. Okay, the junky water. So now the Gemara is going to finish off its explanation of how it calculated how much beer do you need. The midah hasam achad arba, since when it comes to the laws of carrying, the ratio is 4-to-1. You need, the wine was a quarter of a revius. Basically what the regular liquid is revius. They have a 4-to-1 ratio. So if you're going to have a 4-to-1 ratio, midah hasam achad arba, hachanami al chad arba. It to continue the 4-to-1 ratio. Now, how much did Rav say you needed of wine? Remember, in terms of an eruv, didn't he say you need 2 lugin? Okay, so if you need 2 lugim and you have a 4-to-1 ratio, so you would need 8 lugin, which is 2 cups. So okay, 1 second. Well, let's do the Rashi. Okay, in other words, Rav said before you need not 2 lugin. You need 2 reviuses. You need 2 reviuses in Rav of wine. Okay, so if you need 2 reviuses of wine and it's a 4-to-1 ratio, so you would need 8 reviuses according to which would be 2 lugin, 4 reviuses in a lug. So you would need 2 lugim according to Rav Acha's calculation. If you're going to continue the same formula of 4-to-1, and if you work with the Rav's cheshbin that you need 2 reviuses for wine in an eruv, that gets you to 8 reviuses. So which the Gemara says it's a nice calculation, veloi, but it's not true. When it comes to carrying, it's a whole different formula. Carrying is about what's choshev in an absolute fashion to carry. Unless the 4 ounces of wine is not choshev. I'm sorry, 4 ounces of another liquid is not considered choshev. When it comes to an eruv, it's a different formula. It's a different calculation. You don't have the 4-to-1 ratio as you have by the issue of carrying. Because carrying, you need to meet a threshold of chashivas. When it comes to an eruv, you have to meet the same threshold of chashivas. It's not. In other words, it doesn't go 4-to-1 all the time. He says but here you wouldn't say that it needs to be 4 times that amount. Why not? Because there are people who might drink a cup of wine in the morning and a cup of wine in the afternoon, and that would be good for them, and then that would be sufficient. So if that's enough, the 2 reviuses would suffice, even though it doesn't conform with your formula, because that's considered what people would drink. So when it comes to 2 sudas, it's a much more practical issue, and it doesn't follow the 4-to-1 ratio, which seems to be in play for the halachas of carrying. So you can't make the same calculations, and therefore it would come out that a lot less wine would be necessary to make your eruv. Let's see if we can do the Rashis here.
This is saying that it's beer. They drink a cup of beer in the morning and a beer in the evening.
Yeah, right. Beer, right, correct. We're talking about beer, correct. Maybe I misspoke, sorry. So beer, right. So it's very common to have a cup of beer in the morning, a cup of beer in the afternoon, and it works. So if it works to the general population, that should be enough. So let's see, Ubanskifla, we did that. Trey Eruvin and Shechra. Trey Lugin, we did that too. Hamotzi Yain B'Shabbos, first narrow line. Hamotzi Yain B'Shabbos k'dei mezigas hakos. Kamo shenoisen yain chai hakos k'dei l'mozga b'mayim. The amount of wine you'd put in to raw wine, undiluted wine that you would put in to mix with water. Rov revius, rov lug yain chai. A quarter of a lug of yain chai. Rov revius. Right, so what the Gemara said that as a calculation of how much beer you have to have. No, 1 second. Right, I guess he's going on the line. V'sharkal mashkin revius. So all other liquids are revius. What's called revius? Okay, you know what? Let's do this on Sunday, Bez Hashem. We'll finish up this Gemara. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Have a good
Shabbos,
Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Yes, bye-bye.